They say family should be your first safe place. But what if it's your first battlefield? The smell of grilled corn and sweet barbecue sauce still clings to my memory, just like the sting of my mother's voice echoing across the backyard. Some of us still don't know what we're doing with our lives. Isn't that right, Eliana? Laughter followed, not the kind you join in on but the kind that stays with you. That night, I stood there in my faded jeans, holding a plastic cup of lemonade, while my little brother basked in applause for landing an interview with the hottest tech company in the country. My company, the one I built from nothing, the one they didn't even know I owned. Before we start, take a moment. What time is it right now, and where are you tuning in from? Let me know in the comments. This story, it might feel strangely personal, because if you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you the most, then what happens next might just feel like your own revenge. Brian's always had a plan, Mom beamed, raising her glass as if to toast his very existence. Even as a kid, he was focused. Remember when he said he wanted to work in tech? And now look at him. The applause was instant. Aunt Linda clapped so hard her rings nearly flew off. Uncle Joe elbowed my dad and whispered something about stock options and early retirement. Meanwhile, Brian stood center stage at the backyard barbecue, soaking it all in like a seasoned politician on the campaign trail. He had just announced that he'd landed an interview with Vanguard Pixel, one of the most elite AI firms in the country, he proclaimed, pride swelling in his voice. He was wearing a crisp white shirt, slightly too tight around the arms, probably to show off the gym progress he kept posting on Instagram. You know they only take the best of the best, Mom added, eyes sparkling. They reached out to him directly, headhunted. Isn't that something? I nodded absently, staring into the rim of my lemonade. The plastic cup sweated in my hand as the Arizona sun dipped behind the hills. All I could hear was the hollow buzz of praise being tossed around like confetti, each word a reminder of how invisible I'd become in their eyes. And Eliana, Dad said suddenly, turning toward me with that half laugh he always used when trying to be supportive without actually meaning it. Still freelancing, right? What was it again, design stuff? I smiled politely. Something like that, Brian chuckled. You know, if this interview goes well, maybe I can get you in. I'm sure they could use an assistant or two. Laughter again, light, careless, the kind that stings under your skin. I watched them, all their proud faces, their certainty. Not one of them knew, not a clue that the company they were all worshipping was mine. And tomorrow, Brian would walk straight into an interview with me. After the barbecue, I drove home in my gray SUV, the one I reserve for family events. My white AMG sat safely in its private parking spot downtown, beneath the headquarters I built. I don't know when I started keeping secrets from them. Maybe it was after the third Thanksgiving, where Brian got a standing ovation for passing an undergrad econ class, and I got scolded for not bringing a boyfriend. Or maybe it was when I realized that no matter how hard I worked, they only saw what they expected to see, a dreamer with no direction. What they never saw, what I never told them, is that I spent the last 10 years turning late-night freelance gigs into something real. Vanguard Pixel was born in a studio apartment I shared with 2 roommates and a leaky ceiling. While Brian was uploading gym selfies, I was writing back-end code until 3 a.m. While my parents gushed over his internship at a family friend's law firm, I was negotiating contracts with early adopters across 3 time zones. Now, we're an 8-figure AI consultancy firm, quiet, sharp, and highly selective, and I'm the one who signs every offer letter. I never used my full name professionally, just A.R. Carter, kept my image off the press releases. Even our Forbes feature last quarter only showed a silhouette, the mysterious mind behind Vanguard Pixel. Tomorrow, Brian will sit across from that mysterious mind. I should be nervous. I should be angry. But honestly, I'm calm. Because this isn't about revenge, it's about reality. I've built something they can't ignore, even if they never cared to look, and Brian's about to walk right into it thinking it's his big break. I pulled into the garage, walked past the building's security nod, and rode the elevator to the 27th floor. My office awaited floor-to-ceiling windows, soft leather chairs, curated artwork, and a small silver nameplate on the desk. Eliana R. Carter, founder, CEO. Tomorrow, that name will speak for itself. The next morning, our family group chat lit up with congratulations. Brian had posted a selfie in front of a sleek glass building, my building. The caption read, "Big day ahead. Interview with the future. Let's go." Dozens of likes followed, a few fire emojis, one from Mom, Proud of you, sweetheart, knock 'em dead. I stared at the screen in silence, sipping my black coffee in my penthouse kitchen. A soft morning sun spilled across the marble counters. Below, the city stirred to life, emails pinging, engines humming, dreams beginning or ending. Brian's dream was about to get a wake-up call. Meanwhile, Mom kept the commentary going. Eliana, did you see? Your brother's interviewing at that company you were talking about, Vanguard something? I replied with a simple, I saw, wishing him the best. She added a thumbs up, then a smiley face. Then, as always, maybe you'll get inspired. Inspired. If only she knew that while Brian was bragging about maybe getting hired, I was reviewing executive team restructuring proposals, finalizing a European expansion roadmap, and preparing for a 9 a.m. interview round, which would end with me. That afternoon, while reviewing applicant files with Miami executive assistant, she looked up and smirked. He's really selling this one online, she said. He's scheduled as the final candidate tomorrow morning. Thought you'd want a heads up. I nodded. Let him have his moment. He's already updated his LinkedIn, she added. Says he's prepping to revolutionize modern workflow at Vanguard Pixel. Bold. I couldn't help but laugh. Not cruelly, just softly. The kind of laugh you release when irony circles back like a boomerang. He was walking into my world, armed with surface charm and inflated confidence. He thought he'd be the star of the show. But what happens when the curtain rises and the stage belongs to someone else? By 6:30 a.m., I was already seated in my office, high above downtown, watching the golden light roll in over Camelback Mountain. The city below was still stretching awake, but Vanguard Pixel was already alive. Our servers hummed. Our team logs lit up. And in just a few hours, the interview that had been 10 years in the making would unfold. I adjusted the cuffs of my slate gray suit, tailored, understated, powerful. Not a statement of fashion, a suit of armor. A knock at the door. Maya stepped in with her usual calm. Your brother arrived at 7:42. He's in the lobby now. He brought coffee for the front desk and told them he plans to optimize the company's digital efficiency within his first 6 months. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, she added, holding out a slim folder. He also tagged us in a post. Future executive at Vanguard Pixel, complete with a selfie and motivational quote. I took the folder from her hands, opened it, and scanned the resume I already knew too well. Dual degrees, prestigious internships, polished language, but I could see the seams. A résumé stitched together by favors and family friends. Maya lingered. The board's asking why you insisted on sitting in for this one. Quality control, I replied. Understood, she said with a half smile. The interview team's been briefed. They'll do their part. Thank you, I nodded. I want him to earn or unravel in his own. And so, the clock ticked. I spent the next hour prepping silently, reviewing contracts, mentally reviewing each phase of the interview structure. We don't do easy hires at Vanguard. We dig deep. And Brian? He was used to shallow waters. At 8:55, I walked to the observation room behind the mirrored glass of the conference suite. There he washed in his suit, too much cologne, full of rehearsed confidence. He shook hands with the first interviewer like he owned the place. He thought this was his launch. He didn't know he was already in freefall. From behind the mirrored glass, I watched Brian take his seat with the kind of confidence that only comes from never having been truly challenged. He flashed his polished smile, adjusted his cuffs like he'd studied leadership poses, and dove headfirst into the first round. Why do you want to work at Vanguard Pixel? Because I believe I'm the future of digital transformation, he declared, flashing that camera-ready grin. And this company needs leaders who think like me. One of the panelists raised an eyebrow. Interesting. Could you walk us through a project where you personally implemented a scalable digital framework? Brian blinked. Well, in my internship, I advised on a migration plan. The team handled most of the execution, but I contributed ideas. The second interviewer leaned in. What metrics did you use to track success? Brian paused longer this time. Engagement. Mostly qualitative. I watched him squirm. The buzzwords were there: innovation, disruption, agile pivoting, but the substance wasn't. He was fluent in LinkedIn speak but allergic to depth. Every follow-up question pulled at a thread. By the second round, the polish had dulled. By the third, the mask had slipped. One senior partner asked about an ethics scenario involving AI bias. Brian deflected with a joke about robots taking over. Another pressed for real-world problem. solving, and he pivoted to vague talk about team synergy. Oh. The room grew quieter. My interviewers weren't unkind, but they were sharp, and they were trained to see through performance. By 10:30, Brian's smile had wilted. His notes were scrambled, his voice, once booming with bravado, had shrunk to careful hesitations. And he hadn't even seen me yet. I stood from the observation room and headed toward my office. Maya met me at the door. "He's ready," she said softly. Tired, a little rattled, but still trying to hold the act together. I nodded. "Send him in." The final round. No more mirrors, no more scripts. Just me, and the little brother who still thought I was the family disappointment. My back was to the door when he entered. I let him take in the room, first floor to ceiling windows, the curated artwork, the quiet elegance that whispered power rather than shouted it. He cleared his throat. "Thank you for meeting with me, Mr. Carter. I really appreciate your time." I turned slowly in my chair. His voice caught mid-sentence. For a moment, he didn't say a word. Just stood there, eyes wide, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. I watched his confidence unravel in real time. "Eliana," he said, barely above a whisper. I offered a calm smile. "Hello, Brian." He blinked rapidly. "But I thought this was with the CEO." "It is. But you're just. Mom said you were still doing freelance gigs." Did she? I gestured casually to the wall behind, meloned with awards, framed magazine covers, and plaques etched with my name. Eliana R. Carter, founder and CEO, Vanguard Pixel. His eyes scanned the room like he was searching for a trapdoor. "I built this company," I said softly. "From a studio apartment with no backing and no praise. While you were busy collecting trophies, I was building an empire you didn't even notice. You tricked us." He tilted my head. "No, you just never asked." And he looked down, then back up, angry now. "You let me come in here thinking I had a shot. I gave you exactly what you asked for. A fair interview. Your resume got you through the door. Your answers kept you from staying." He sat down hard, the bravado fully gone. "So what now? You going to humiliate me? Tell the whole family?" I shook my head. "I don't need to. The interview speaks for itself." He stared at the desk. I watched the silence stretch and settle, heavy and undeniable. "You should leave now, Brian. We both know this isn't the place for you." I pressed the intercom. "Maya, please escort Mr. Carter out." "Yes, ma'am." As he walked out, I heard it, the tremble in his breath, the sound of a man realizing the world no longer revolves around him. And for once, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. It took less than an hour. The family group chat exploded. First came Mom. "What kind of cruel joke is this? Brian is devastated. How could you blindside him like that?" Then Dad. "This was beneath you, Eliana. We raised you better than to humiliate your own brother." I stared at the screen for a long moment before turning the phone face down on my desk. They finally knew. Not because I told them, because they were forced to look. And still, they rushed to defend the golden child, never asking why he failed, only why I dared to shine. I didn't respond right away. Let the silence say what words never could. Later that evening, Maya stepped into my office, holding a small envelope. "Forbes," she said with a smile. "Cover's officially out." I opened it slowly. There I was, full color, crisp suit, the skyline of Phoenix behind me. No silhouettes this time, no initials. Just me. The headline read, "The Silent Success, How One Woman Built a $1 billion Tech Firm While Everyone Doubted Her." I ordered 10 copies sent directly to my family's homes. No note, no caption, just the truth. In the days that followed, Sunday BBQs stopped happening. Group calls turned into stiff, awkward check-ins. Brian stopped posting altogether. Mom sent one last message. "We just don't know how to act around you anymore." And for once, I didn't apologize. I didn't shrink myself to make them comfortable. I let them sit with their discomfort, because I had spent years sitting in mine. The real twist wasn't that I was successful. It was that I no longer needed their validation. So I finally replied, "You raised me to be successful. Congratulations, you did." And that was the last thing I ever typed in that chat. Some truths don't need to be explained. They just need to be lived loudly, fully, and unapologetically. 3 months passed. Brian took a job as a project coordinator at a small boutique agency across town. No team to manage, no corner office, just a modest desk, and a title that didn't come with applause. Mom stopped posting family photos. Dad canceled the annual Labor Day cookout, No one said it out loud, but the air had changed. The weight of knowing was heavier than the weight of pretending. I didn't gloat. I didn't reach out. Instead, I stayed busy closing 2 enterprise deals, preparing our European expansion, and mentoring 3 young women in tech who reminded me of who I used to be: quiet, overlooked, and underestimated. Then the Forbes article hit national distribution. Grocery stores, airports, newsstands. The cover photo was impossible to miss. Me, poised, centered, with the Vanguard Pixel logo just behind my shoulder. No shadows, no mystery, just presence. I had become unignorable. I didn't send it to my family this time. I knew they'd already seen it. My cousin forwarded me a screenshot of Mom holding the magazine in her lap, her expression unreadable. But I didn't care about their reaction anymore. Their silence was louder than anything they could have said. Success, I'd learned, is best measured not in praise but in peace. I still drove the gray SUV to random places sometimes. It reminded me of the version of myself who had to swallow her wins, who hid her brilliance just to keep the room calm. But not anymore. I had outgrown the need to be understood. Now, I only needed to be respected, and I'd already earned that. From clients, from partners, from the world. And maybe, someday, even from them. But I wasn't waiting. I had a company to lead, a legacy to build, and a life I no longer needed to hide. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to believe in you the most, I see you. I know what it's like to sit in silence while others get celebrated for doing less, to build in the shadows while carrying the weight of doubt that's not even yours. But here's the truth. You don't need their applause. You don't need their permission. What you're building matters. Even if they don't see it yet. Especially if they don't see it yet. So, if you've ever swallowed your achievements just to keep the peace, or laughed off their jabs to avoid the tension, this is your reminder. Your worth was never up for their vote. Drop a comment below and tell me your story. What are you building? What fire are you carrying quietly? Not for revenge, but for your own damn peace. We're building something here together. Strength in silence, power in persistence, and success loud enough to echo, even when we whisper. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.